Welcome, everyone. Today we are focusing on a foundational element of Azure governance, managing resource groups. Let's dive in to understand how they work and how to secure them. Let's start with the definition. What is an Azure Resource Group? Simply put, it is a logical container used to group multiple Azure resources together. Whether you are deploying virtual machines, databases, or web apps, they must reside within a resource group. For the basics, remember a strict rule: a single resource can only belong to one resource group at any given time. However, resources can be moved between groups if needed. Why do we use them? Because they create a much-needed mechanism for logical grouping, establishing order within your Azure subscriptions. A deep dive concept to grasp early on is that these are not physical data boundaries. They are purely logical constructs designed to simplify your cloud administration. Looking at this flowchart, you can see the Azure hierarchy in action. At the top, we have the Azure subscription, which acts as our billing and management boundary. Inside the subscription, we deploy our resource groups, shown here as Resource Group 1 and 2. Notice how they act as distinct containers holding specific resources. Group 1 holds a virtual machine and a virtual network, while Group 2 holds a database and an app service. This clear separation is the first step in effective cloud governance. Now let's explore why we organize resources this way, focusing heavily on lifecycle management. Microsoft recommends that a resource group should contain resources that share the same lifecycle. This means if you have a web application, its database, and its storage account, they should likely live in the same resource group because they will be deployed, updated, and eventually retired together. For the basics, you should organize your groups by application, department, or cost center to streamline billing and tracking. How does this help? It allows you to manage related components as a single unified entity. As a deep dive organizational strategy, avoid putting every resource into one massive group. Distribute them logically to align with how your business operates and scales. This diagram breaks down the three core benefits of a resource group. From the center resource group node, we branch out into shared lifecycle, billing, and access control. Focus on the shared lifecycle branch at the top. Because the resources support the same application, they follow the same path, they are deployed together, updated together, and eventually deleted together. This drastically reduces the chance of leaving orphaned, costly resources running in your environment. This brings us to a critical deep dive topic that often confuses administrators: resource group location and metadata. When you create a resource group, you must select a region. What does this mean? This location specifically dictates where the metadata, the data describing your resources, is stored. Why is this required? Because many organizations have strict legal constraints on where data, even metadata, can be physically located. Here is the deep dive reality: the resources inside the group are not bound by this location. A resource group in East US can comfortably hold a virtual machine deployed in West Europe. However, a constraint to remember: if the East US region goes down, the metadata is unavailable, meaning you cannot update or delete those resources until the region recovers. Thankfully, your VM in West Europe will continue running perfectly fine. Let's visualize this metadata relationship. The top node represents our resource group, with its metadata stored in the East US region. Notice the arrows pointing downward to the actual resources. We have a virtual machine also in East US, but we also have a database in West Europe and an app service in Southeast Asia. The resource group acts as an umbrella spanning across global regions, managing resources worldwide while keeping its administrative tracking data strictly in one defined location. How do we actually create these resource groups? It's the first step in provisioning your cloud infrastructure. You have several tools at your disposal. In the Azure portal, you simply navigate to Resource Groups, click Create, and define the name and region. For those who prefer automation, you can use the Azure CLI with the AZ Group Create command, or use Azure PowerShell with the new AZ Resource Group Complete. Both command line tools only require the name and the location parameters to instantly provision the group. A quick deep dive into naming conventions: the name of your resource group must be unique within your specific subscription. However, unlike storage accounts, the name does not have to be globally unique across Azure, meaning you can reuse the same name in a different subscription if needed. This diagram illustrates the deployment pathways. On the left, we have the IT administrator. They can choose their preferred tool: the Visual Azure portal, the Azure CLI, PowerShell, or infrastructure as code like ARM and Bicep templates. Regardless of the tool chosen, they all funnel into the central Azure Resource Manager API. This API processes the request, validates your permissions, and ultimately provisions the new resource group on the right. It ensures a consistent deployment experience across all tools. Now we move into the governance aspect, starting with Role-Based Access Control, or RBAC. What is RBAC? It is the authorization system that grants specific permissions to your users and applications. For the basics, the resource group is the ideal scope for assigning these roles. Why? Because it enforces the principle of least privilege. Instead of giving a developer contributor rights to your entire subscription, you assign them contributor rights only to their specific project's resource group. This heavily limits the blast radius if an account is compromised. Diving deeper, Azure RBAC relies on a parent-child inheritance model. If you assign a role at the resource group level, every single resource deployed inside that group now and in the future automatically inherits those exact same permissions. Let's trace the flow of RBAC inheritance in this diagram. At the top, we assign the contributor role to the development team. Crucially, we apply this assignment strictly at the project resource group scope, highlighted in green. Follow the dotted lines downward. Because of inheritance, the development team automatically gains contributor access to the virtual machine, the virtual network, and the SQL database contained within. They can manage these resources without ever having access to the rest of the company's Azure environment. Another critical governance tool is the resource lock. What are locks? They're a definitive security feature designed to prevent the accidental modification or deletion of your resources. The basics involve two types of locks. The cannot delete lock means the resource can be read and modified, but it cannot be deleted. The read-only lock is much stricter. It acts like a global reader role, preventing both modification and deletion. Why are these so important? Because they protect your mission-critical infrastructure from human error. Even if a user has full owner permissions via RBAC, the lock will block them from deleting the resource group. How do you apply them? Simply navigate to the resource group settings, select locks, and add one. As a deep dive rule, remember that locks applied at the resource group level flow down and protect every single resource inside the group, completely overriding any standard RBAC permissions. This sequence diagram shows a resource lock saving the day. Our IT administrator, who actually holds full owner privileges, attempts to delete the resource group. However, the request is intercepted by the Azure Resource Lock. The system evaluates the status and detects a cannot delete lock in place. The lock immediately blocks the deletion request from reaching the resource group and returns a strict, action denied error to the administrator. The infrastructure is kept safe from accidental clicks. Let's move on to tagging and Azure policy. What are tags? They are simply metadata in the form of key value pairs that you assign to your resources to categorize them, for example setting a cost center to IT. Why do we use them? Because they are absolutely essential for filtering billing data and performing internal financial chargebacks. Now, here is a major constraint you must memorize. Unlike RBAC or resource locks, tags applied at the resource group scope are not automatically inherited by the child resources inside. If you tag a group, the VMs inside remain untagged. How do we fix this? We use Azure policy. In a deep dive governance strategy, you should assign the built-in Azure policy named Inherit a tag from the resource group if missing. This policy acts as an automated enforcer, sweeping through your group and applying the parent tags to all child resources without manual intervention. This flowchart demonstrates how Azure policy solves the tag inheritance problem. At the top, our resource group has a tag of cost center equals 123. The Azure Policy Evaluation Engine continuously scans the environment. It detects that the virtual machine and storage account inside are missing this tag. The policy immediately triggers a remediation task. The task reaches down and automatically applies the cost center tag to both resources, ensuring your billing reports are 100% accurate. In our final slide, we will cover moving and deleting resource groups. What does this entail? It's managing the mobility and end-of-life phases of your deployments. For the basics on moving, you can move resources between groups or entirely different subscriptions. However, there is a strict constraint. If a resource has dependencies, like a virtual machine and its network interface, they must be moved together. Azure will always validate the move first, as not all resource types support migration. Finally, let's talk about deleting. The most important rule to remember, deleting a resource group irrevocably deletes every single resource contained within it. It is a mass deletion event. Because of the danger involved, Azure forces a confirmation. How do you do it? You click Delete Resource Group, and you are forced to explicitly type out the exact name of the group to confirm its destruction. This final flowchart maps out our two destructive or mobility actions. From managing the lifecycle, we branch into moving or deleting. If we choose Move, Azure runs a tight validation check on dependencies and resource support. If it passes, the resources migrate. If it fails, the move is blocked. If we choose to delete the resource group, we are met with a permanent action warning. The admin must type the exact name to confirm, which triggers the final step, the complete wiping of all child resources.
Welcome to quicktechie.com. So just type in quicktechie.com here. Then you can go through the material which is provided by quicktechie. So we have first of all video courses which you can go here and you can find the various video courses across the technologies as well as finance domain. So if you see in Microsoft, we have 8 programs currently running. Next, you can go through the ebooks available. So all the ebooks which are in PDF format today, and you can download this. So let me go through Microsoft certification ebooks. You can click on any of this and you can see this is the PDF available for you to download. So these are the premium ebook mostly available on quicktechie.com platform only. Now the second part is exam simulator. As we primarily focus on the all technology companies and finance domain certification preparation material, so this is company wide listed here and you can go through this. So let me go through the Microsoft one again. You can see this is are all Microsoft related certification. AB730 exam, if you open it, so you can see here this, and all the practice papers are available here. Today we have a 5 practice paper. So click on the first practice paper. It would load the questions. You can answer this question. This is way you can answer it and you can move to the next question. Now third material we wanted to highlight is an audiobook. So we started recently with the audiobooks as well, which you can listen on the go, and various technology wise ebooks are available. And at the last, this is our alumni. These people who are subscribing to our courses and this platform, they are all listed here. And at the end, I wanted to tell you, if you find any course or training or certification preparation material which you want to get us prepare for yourself, please put on the comment section. If you're watching on YouTube, on Udemy, or on this platform itself, quicktechie.com, then please put the comment, or you can even send an email to using this contact us options here. You can directly do the WhatsApp message. You can call us on this numbers as well.